In Villa Formoso, the old border post stands empty. A careless driver might not even realize he's now in Spanish territory. These are the fruits of free circulation of people in the European Union. These pictures were filmed on St. Valentine's Day. It's 10 p.m, and the temperature remains stubbornly fixed at 0. Fuentes de Honoro, the Spanish village, looks deserted. There's no one on the streets, or even an open cafe to have a drink and warm up. But behind this stillness, there's a flourishing trade worth millions of pesetas every year. The Portuguese-owned putti clubs, whore bars, here in Spain. Although we're here in Spain, the evening is very Portuguese. The prostitutes are Portuguese, the club owners are Portuguese, and the customers are also Portuguese. It takes no longer than an hour and a half to drive from Portugal. In Spain, bars with prostitutes are illegal, but they are left to ply their trade in peace. Where do you come from? Lisbon. You've come a long way, and you ended up here. I'm on the road. You're on the road. Where are you going? To Burgos. We're travelling to Burgos. Oh, it's pretty out there. Do you know it? I do. I don't. It's the first time I'm going there. I was there for 3 months, not exactly in Burgos, 80 kilometers away. Also in a bar? Yes. But I wasn't doing exactly what I'm doing here. They chat, but with a single objective, to invite you to have sex with them in exchange for 5,000 pesetas. It looks like they're here of their own accord, but in truth, many of the women in this bar are forced to be here and to sell themselves as prostitutes. I cried. I was scared. And they would put me up against not exactly a fireplace.
Bailarinas, daqueles tubos grandes, não é? Gostaram várias vezes, queimaram os braços todos.
Isso para você se prostituir?
Sim. Claro, queriam que eu fosse para a vara, onde iam várias mulheres lá.
Deolinda was only 13 years old when she was forced to go to Spain. She was already a runaway. One evening, a friend offered her work in a restaurant. Waiting for her was a Portuguese pimp who owned a whore bar. Stories like this are repeated all over the country. It's common knowledge that people are skilled in the art of seducing and misleading young women who want to work in Spain. Some of them are already prostitutes. All are promised heaven and earth. When they get here, they can be sold on from bar to bar. 50% are deceived, with promises of a good salary, of a good life. Because over there, wages are 3 times higher than here. Jobs aren't easy to find, and they go. It's natural. Once they arrive, they become objects. The guy that takes them away from here, if she's a good-looking object, he gets rid of her immediately in exchange for a big number. He sells her, yes, and then he disappears. Normally, if she's difficult, or he doesn't like her, or if she was deceived, he's only got one thing on his mind: to get there, to sell her, and get out of there. And he sells her to the bar owners? That's right, the bar owners or the so-called middleman. And afterwards the woman's forced to prostitute herself to pay back some money. More than just some money. If she earns 200, how can she only hand over 200? She has to pay them whatever they want. And when she doesn't make as much as they want, she has no chance. No chance at all. From being kicked, head-butted, tortured with wet towels, I don't know, a lot of things. Cigarette burns, electric shocks. They get all sorts of things. This man knows this way of life inside out. He's 40 years old and been a pimp since he was 18. He's no exception to the rule. He himself has taken women to Spain. He's taken 5 at a time. He could put his feet up each night, knowing he was going to earn a lot of money. They weren't forced to work, but I gave them a certain freedom, the freedom from my vices. I never demanded that they did this or that. They did it because they wanted to. And they gave you money? Yes, normally. In this sort of setup, she likes her pimp. She doesn't give him some money. She gets home and she gives him all the money she's earned. It's a catch-22. The prostitutes either hand over their earnings to their pimp, or in the language of the street, they end up in court. They burn us with cigarette stubs, beat us with sticks, kick us. They put salt on our cut knees, put us inside the freezer, pour freezing water on us, give us electric shocks. Do they do it to you? Some of it. What? Salt, freezing water, beatings with a stick, stabbing. Where were you stabbed? I was stabbed. There's no need to say where. And how long did it last? 3 years. What did they do with the salt? I'd been kneeling in the sitting room until my knees were bleeding. And that was at the end of the evening? At the end of the evening, yes. They got back from their clubs and would torture those who didn't work. During 3 years of forced prostitution in Spain, Teresa's lost count of the number of times she was mistreated. Her first time was in a club like this one. She was 20. During the time she spent in Spain, she visited each one of the clubs along the Estrada 80, the main road of the Iberia Peninsula, joining Portugal to Spain. One day another pimp promised to take her back to Portugal. He said he would take me back to Portugal, and afterwards he said he'd take me to the Algarve. Only in the Algarve, without knowing it, I was sold again. I was sold to another pimp, and later I came back to Madrid. Teresa's story is typical. She became pregnant, but that didn't stop her pimp using her to make money. She managed to run away one day, only because she managed to deceive the pimp and ring her family. It was a daring act. It may not seem hard to run away, but it is. The women are watched by the pimps day and night, and the older prostitutes keep an eye on the newcomers. And anyway, most of the whore bars have steel doors, video cameras, bars at the windows, and high walls. They eat and sleep here. All the conditions are stipulated in the contract of sale. They only leave when they're moving on to another bar, which is roughly every 3 weeks, to coincide with their menstrual cycle. These bars are sometimes called contract houses and are difficult to stamp out. No one has yet been able to prove that there's prostitution inside. On the surface, they're legal, and they pay taxes like any other business. This is like any other cafe. Our job is in the catering industry. My door's open to everyone. All sorts of people come here. Lawyers, judges, everyone comes here. You confirm that the majority are Portuguese? Yes, the majority are Portuguese. And the women that work here? Mostly Portuguese. The majority of the girls are Portuguese. At this level, there are a few Spaniards working in this area. And there's no prostitution here. No, no prostitution in this house. The girls are here to keep the customers company. You call it a hostess bar. Yes, of course, this so-called hostess, this prostitution thing, people make it up. So if I get here and I want to have a drink with a girl and so on, and if I want to take her to my room, my dear friend, anytime the lady wants, there are no saints here. If the lady likes you and wants to go away with you, that's none of my business. But not under your roof, not under my roof. They might prostitute themselves away from here, but as far as I'm concerned, that's not prostitution. A woman's free to have relations as she pleases. And she does, out of sight. These girls are holding keys to the rooms. Behind these curtains is the reserved area. All we have to do is go up the stairs. In 95% of the bars in Spain, the prostitution's hidden inside, in the so-called reserved area, where there's a sofa like that one over there, or a concrete bed. The customer arrives, orders a drink and a woman, pays, and leaves. Nobody knows how many Portuguese women choose to prostitute themselves in Spain, or are forced into it. But everyone knows that business is booming.
Vai cá,